Underhill. I don't know the young lady's name, but she asks a clip with Nick Underhill. I don't know the young lady's.
And I don't know the young lady's name, but I'm tempted now to find the clip. Because Nick was very. Let me see if I can find it first, because I wasn't going to do it this way, but I like to be honest in my vlogs and explain what my triggers are, right? And that was a trigger, because rather than I went to Twitter and I typed Jameis Winston, searching, right? And the video with he and this young lady came up, and I watched it, and I expected it to be about Jameis Winston, but it wasn't. It was more. It was mostly about Derek Carr, and I thought, this is supposed to be Jameis Winston's moment. Why are you talking about Derek Carr when there's an obvious storyline here regarding the fact this is the third time that Jameis faces his old team? And it didn't have to come out that way. In fact, spiritually, if you think about it, it looks like, the way it should have come about, right, was that Derek's playing this contest, and I just now at Twitter, but I'm going down to find the video, and Derek is not able to play the game because he's injured. Normally, he would be able to, but that's not happening. So I went to Twitter, as I'm doing right now, and I typed Jameis Winston and hit return and waited. And of course, Bucs Media says that Derek Carr is fully confident that Jameis Winston can be successful. And I'm scrolling down to find this take. This is what I just put up here. Okay. And I'm still looking for it. It may be the second one, but rather than Nick talk in what way that's positive, he basically says, well, I don't know. And then he says that the Saints have to adjust their passing game to make it better regardless of who plays. In other words, he was very reluctant to say a lot about Jameis Winston. And he's the starter. Okay, he's the starter. So I'm tired of this constant habit that the people who are allowed to cover the Saints bring to the table, where when it comes to Jameis Winston as the latest black quarterback, the people who are allowed to cover the Saints have mush in their mouth about him. All right. And it's a constant problem. I don't, it's Nick or anybody else, less so who understands what I'm talking about. Then, of course, he's African American man like myself, which is sad that we're at this place in our society where you don't have a sympathetic voice because that person doesn't look like you. That's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Okay. But that's where it seems we are today. But you really have to recap and consider what has happened to make, because I'm scrolling through and still trying to find what he said, but what Nick said. But you really have to recap and think about the fact that Jameis Winston has went through essentially 3 different versions of himself on the way to this contest on Sunday. the first version of himself was the 2021 Sean Payton version that was every bit the equal of then Bucs quarterback Tom Brady and had led the Saints to a 7-all tie just before halftime, only to be horse collar tackled by a seemingly bounty hunting. I'm just saying, Devin White. Okay, I'm just, I'm just saying. All right, that's what it looks like to me. He was bounty hunting, and um, he acted like it to me. And then the very next year, 2022, that was supposed to be the year that Jameis started, and that year came with a great deal of promise as well. I thought the Saints were going to put him in a true ball control passing offense like the one they're running this year in terms of scheme selection. And yet they didn't. They put him more of a Mike Martz approach, which is let's drop back 5 to 7 yards and throw and have the offensive lineman retreat in a way that actually brings the defense rush closer to the quarterback. I do not like the Mike Martz approach. Now, why am I mentioning Mike Martz? Because Mike Martz was the featured guest of Sean Payton that year in training camp. And I was asking what kind of elements to the offense are the Saints going to adopt? And I never got an answer to that question. And the beat reporters certainly didn't ask it because it's not in their mentality to think about uh, scheme, and which is really bad. Beat reporters, by and large, do not give NFL football fans the kind of intellectual respect they deserve by respecting the game and talking about formations, plays, and strategies and physics. That's why I do, and will do more of it. But I digress. My point is now that this contest, think about it. Let's go back and think about what happened. He gets horse collar tackled. He's out for the year. That's 2021. Then 2022 comes along. He breaks his back against the Falcons, bringing them back from the jaws of loss to the joy of victory. And on a last second Young Wei Koo kick, and excuse me, that wasn't Young Wei Koo, who was the Falcons, but last second Will Lutz kick. All right, and I believe Young Wei Koo missed his kick, but point is, hold on one moment, because I've got to. Okay, so as I was saying, I've got to head off to that help there, but help mom. But the second year, hey, blessings to you, Van Eric. The second year, that was 2022, Winston came in, broke his back against the Falcons, should have sat out the Bucs game, which was the second game, didn't, played, not only had played with a broken back, but with a sprained toe. The results were obvious. He had Chris Olave wide open on a deep pass, missed him outside by a good 3 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards. I can go on and on and on. But the Buccaneers were able to get to Jameis because they had Jameis throwing deep, even with those injuries. In other words, Pete Carmichael was serving Jameis up to the Lions, to get slaughtered. And that's what happened. And later, Jameis would say, that's a game that I should have sat out on. But he so wanted to beat his team, former team, the one that drafted him, the one that gave him a lot of great years at quarterback, even if it wasn't the right system. It should have been ball control. if it were ball control, considering their defense and everything else, they would have had at least one Lombardi trophy. I state that. But they didn't do that way. So he had his chance to, shine again. Not happening. This time is completely different because, again, he wasn't supposed to. Jameis Winston was not supposed to play this game. But the Lord set it up to where Jameis Winston is the starting quarterback for this game against the Buccaneers. And there's a reason for that. This is a man who has gotten the benefit of a new rehabilitation. He calls the GOAT. I forgot what the acronym stands for, but he made a video about it over the offseason. And it has made him more flexible. It has returned his body to health. He's not banged up. He's not playing off of a bad foot. He's not working off of a broken back or anything like that. He is the healthiest he has been since 2021, prior to the horse collar tackle. And then he's got Alvin Kamara coming back for the first time. So there's no book on what the Saints are going to do with Kamara this year because he hasn't played until now. That's an advantage. And then the Buccaneers are banged up with 7 different players, different levels of injury, including the aforementioned Devin White, who has a toe injury and didn't practice. A foot injury, and did not practice, not toe, but foot, and did not practice. And as of this making of this vlog, his status is marked doubtful to play. The Buccaneers are also in the teens in terms of defensive rankings, whereas the Saints are in the top 10. So there's a lot of reasons to believe that the stage is set for Jameis Winston to have his best game against the Bucs, and certainly a game where he's completely healthy, has a healthy offensive cast of characters, and one of the top defenses in the NFL. Not bad. My prediction, I would be shocked if he didn't throw for over 300 yards on a bevy of short passes. I would be surprised if Alvin Kamara contributed less than 70 yards of total offense, running and pass catch. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Blessings to everybody. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube. Bookmark oaklandnewsnowblog.com and play the first part of the video again and again and again. You hear me expanding my voice. That was crazy. All right, see you later.